I welcome you all for today's session on color Doppler workshop. Now, first of all, we are very much thankful to you for showing a tremendous response to our session on 12th of July. And continuing this, in that session, we discussed about the upper limb and carotid pathologies. Now, continuing the same as a part 2, we will today discuss about the lower limb arterial and venous pathology. We have variety of cases today dealing with arterial stenosis, deep vein thrombosis and varicose veins. I hope you will enjoy the session. Now I would request today's faculty is Dr. Prashant Onkar. Now I would request Onkar sir to say a few words about today's session.
Thank you, sir. Am I audible? Okay. Very good morning to all the viewers from across the country. In this pandemic era, all the live sessions and all CME's workshops are not happening, and we are having many theory lectures and theory sessions. But as far as ultrasound and Doppler is concerned, we need to have practical training because it's all operator dependent. Keeping that in mind, we, in association with the Department of Radiodiagnosis, NKP SIMS, the Maharashtra College of Radiology and MSBIRI, we have started this series of live workshops, and we are thankful to all these three institutions and organizations for encouraging us in this endeavor. Before we move on, I must thank all the postgraduate students and faculties of the department who take a lot of pains in evaluating basic evaluation of the cases, following them and convincing them for keeping us for this workshop. I am also thankful to Samsung India for helping us as an education partner in this workshop. So now we had covered last time mainly upper limb and carotid Doppler. We had a quick demo of lower limb arterial Doppler and had seen some cases also. As the session was extended beyond time, we did not discuss about the peripheral artery disease as such. So today we will discuss that first, how to evaluate in peripheral artery disease, how the stenosis is evaluated, how flow patterns change. Then we have a couple of cases to show you the stenosis and their effects. This will be followed by some case discussions, and then we will discuss lower limb venous Doppler normal demonstration, and this will be followed by cases on lower limb venous Doppler. The upper limb venous Doppler we have covered on that day, so we will focus ourselves on lower limb today. So we will start with the session and the PowerPoint presentation. Thank you. The peripheral arterial disease is quite common, and especially in India, the young generation or young population is affected. It is also common with diabetes and other atherosclerotic diseases. These are the 6 symptoms that have been described in peripheral artery disease. They are pain, pallor, paralysis, pulselessness, paresthesia and poikiloesthesia. So depending on the severity of the disease, the patient may have different symptoms. And when we evaluate a peripheral artery, as we know, it has got a triphasic waveform. First, there is a systolic peak. This is seen, arrow? Yes. Okay. The systolic peak is there. Sorry. there is a narrow spectrum, a sharp deceleration, reverse diastolic flow, and again forward diastolic flow. So there is quick rise and quick up, as due to the pumping from the heart, all the RBCs they move in same velocity. Their velocity increases and drops sharply. So this is all normal. Many a times we are confused whether the flow is triphasic, biphasic, monophasic. Triphasic we have just seen. Biphasic flow is when the flow is on both sides of the baseline, as seen here, the systolic peak and the diastolic reversal. Sometimes this is seen without any significant disease. For example, when there is loss of elasticity of the wall, or the muscular recoil of the artery is lost, then the forward flow during late diastole is not there, and the systolic velocity is maintained. So this is common in generalized atherosclerosis or diabetes, where overall the arteries become harder, and sometimes when there is reduced resistance, then you get this type of flow. Next type of flow is a monophasic flow, when the flow is only on the one side of the baseline. This is sometimes seen in hyperemia. In this case, the peak systolic velocity and acceleration time is normal. This is important to note, as this differentiates it from flow proximal to the disease. This pattern is also seen in exercise, or if the patient has fever, or there is downstream infection, or there is temporary occlusion. Second type of monophasic flow is called a turdus parvus flow. Here the peak systolic velocity is low and the acceleration time is increased, as against, if you see the upper image and the lower image, you will see the difference. The normal peak systolic velocity, normal spectral window, and a reduced peak systolic velocity, and a full field spectral window. So this is seen in distal to the severe occlusion or stenosis. There is usually a gradual peak and a spectral broadening also. There were few questions after last time's session about the normal diameter in lower limb arteries. So this is a chart giving us normal diameter of arteries right from aorta to the popliteal arteries. Usually we do not mention the diameters of arteries unless we anticipate there is a immediate intervention in form of angioplasty and stenting. Aortic diameters, yes, we can mention if they are more than 30 millimeters, and iliac artery to popliteal, the diameter reduces from 10 to 12 mm to 4 to 6 mm. Another question came last time was, what are the normal range of velocities in lower limb arteries? So this is a diagram which shows that the peak systolic velocity right from iliac to TBL, it drops from 150 to 60. But this is not as defined as we see in the carotid system, where the peak systolic and diastolic are very well defined, and accordingly their grading of stenosis is measured. What happens when there is a stenosis? A stenosis causes luminal reduction, and as the luminal reduction goes beyond 50%, then the peak systolic velocity starts increasing, and it doubles at 50% narrowing. It becomes 3 times at 70% of narrowing, and it becomes 4 times at around 80% or more narrowing. So why there is a requirement for grading of stenosis? As I said, the grading is useful for further management, especially in carotid arteries. In carotid arteries, the decision of intervention in form of either endarterectomy or carotid artery stenting, that is taken on the basis of grading of stenosis, and grading of stenosis depends on the systolic as well as the diastolic velocity. Sometimes the grading is not possible. If you cannot evaluate the proximal segment, then it is difficult to grade the stenosis, because grading is especially in lower limb or upper limb Doppler. For example, if you are seeing at a subclavian stenosis, but the proximal subclavian artery is not seen, or there is an innominate stenosis, you cannot see the proximal innominate artery, or it is at the origin. So you cannot compare with the pre-stenotic segment so the grading may not be possible. But for example, in femoral arteries or other popliteal arteries or tibial arteries, you can always see the proximal part, and then we can compare the peak systolic velocity before and after, so that there is a proper grading of the percentage of stenosis. So how to measure velocity? First, you need to scan the artery, confirm the artery, look at the lumen, and then put the color box where you want to see. You see, if you are seeing a narrowed lumen, put your color box first before, evaluate the artery before the stenosis. Once you put the color box, check the direction of flow, whether you are seeing it normally, and then adjust and optimize your flow setting, color settings. Then we put the spectrum, then adjust the gate as per the area or the lumen you are seeing. If you are seeing complete artery, the gate should be 60-70% of the diameter of the artery. If you are seeing the narrowed part, the gate should be reduced. And then after doing this, if you see that there is aliasing and the spectrum is going out of the available window, then you increase the scale. You increase the scale so that the spectrum is well contained in the available window. And finally, you have to do angle correction. Without angle correction, velocity measurement is erroneous and it should not be done. It gives you false measurement and false results they occur. And one more thing, you should not measure any artery at branching, because due to branching there is increase in flow there. This is just an example. This is a bifurcation lesion, and at various places we have measured the velocities, and they range from 300 to 220 centimeters per second in the peak systolic velocity. So you have to keep scanning and try to see at which place the velocity is highest. That will give an area that particular place there is maximum narrowing. So what are the indicators in the proximal flow that indicating a distal disease? A distal disease may be significant narrowing or may be occlusion. So this is an example of a carotid artery. This is common carotid. As you see here, the peak systolic velocity is around 40 to 45 centimeter per second, and end diastolic velocity is less than 10. You don't expect such low peak systolic velocity, but see, the flow pattern is maintained. If you move distal in the same vessel, the velocity still reduces, but see that the sharp peak is still maintained. And if you go more distally, that is just proximal to the complete occlusion, you see this is called a stump flow. In stump flow, because there is no collateral, the blood goes like pushing against a wall and goes and come back little, goes and come back little. So that is called a stump flow. That denotes a complete occlusion. So what are the features of blood flow at stenosis? At stenosis, there will be increased peak systolic velocity, there will be increased end diastolic velocity, there will be a lot of turbulence, because the stenosis is not like a tube. Stenosis is due to plaque. So plaque, they are not regular, they can be irregular. So at places there will be more stenosis, at places there will be less stenosis. So flow will be very much turbulent. Because of turbulent flow, all different RBCs will have different velocities, and therefore the spectral feeling will be there. The spectrum will be completely filled. There will not be clean cut spectrum, and again there will be spectral broadening. But in all these, the acceleration time is maintained. And in severe stenosis, you may not get flow. As we have seen in the earlier slide, the flow will be very less, but still the acceleration time may be normal. So what happens distally? Because there is significant obstruction, either the flow comes via collaterals. So via collaterals means they are the normal branches of the vessel proximal. They act like collaterals, and through other branches they reform the distal vessel. So in occlusions or severe stenosis, the distal flow shows low peak systolic velocity. If you have doubt, whatever you are seeing, first see that your technique is correct. What you are seeing, you have made your angle corrections properly, you have assessing the direction properly, your color box is properly oriented, the spectral gate is proper, and all the scales, color scales and spectral scale are properly adjusted. Even after doing this, still if you are in doubt, compare with the other limb. It is unlikely that both limbs have disease, but many a times only one limb is more diseased than other. So you can compare with the other limb. And all features, as I have said, the spectral widening, rounding of peak, increased acceleration time, gradual upstream, spectral filling and turbulence, all these things can be seen in a distal lower limb. So the acceleration time, the peak systolic velocity, they are features which allow us to differentiate. So particularly in lower limb and upper limb, we see lot of collaterals. So they have a role in reducing symptoms and limb loss. If the patient has got good collaterals, he may have less symptoms, though there is a severe disease. So which vessels act as collaterals? In distal aortic occlusion, the lumbar arteries, they act as collaterals. In external iliac artery obstruction, the internal iliac branches, they act as collaterals. In a superficial femoral artery occlusion, the branches of the profunda femoris, they act as collaterals. In popliteal occlusion, the genicular branches, they may act as collaterals. And the tibial arteries have got very good intercommunication, and there are multiple collaterals seen. So I will show you this diagram. This is how the distal flow is seen depending on the collateral formation. If there are excellent collaterals, you may see a biphasic flow in the distal artery. If there are poor collaterals, that will be a monophasic flow, very low amplitude, there will be more spectral broadening, there will be more gradual peak and all. And if there are no collaterals, as we have seen in the earlier example, the proximal artery will show a biphasic flow. We will see some examples. This is an example of a superficial femoral artery. This artery, if you can see, the image on the left side shows a biphasic flow. The velocity is not very much, is around 50 peak systolic velocity. And at the narrowing part, the velocity has almost increased to 3 times. So this is a significant narrowing. And the distal vessel, if you see in the lower image, the distal artery still shows biphasic flow. The acceleration time is okay. So because there must be good collaterals, those who are feeding the distal artery, and the stenosis is not that much. Therefore, this artery is showing a relatively good flow, though this is less than the proximal artery. This is the example of poor collaterals. There may be long segment narrowing, there may be complete occlusion, and the collaterals are not well developed. Because there is significant narrowing the proximal artery, that shows very small peak. And at the narrowing, you can see the velocities are increased more than 200 or 300 centimeter per second. And the distal flow, the femoral artery distally, shows there is some turbulence in the spectrum, you can see, and there are very only small systolic peaks. So all these things indicates there is a significant narrowing as well as there is poor collateralization. Such patients, they need more urgent treatment. Why this is required? Such patients, they need urgent treatment because there is a significant ischemia, and these patients will have more severe symptoms. One more example. This is a anterior tibial artery. The proximal anterior tibial artery shows a biphasic flow. The peak systolic velocity is okay. The acceleration time is okay. There is little bit spectral filling, but other findings are okay. At the narrowing, if you see the left lower image, narrowing, it shows almost 3 to 4 times velocity than the proximal segment. So this is maybe 70% or more than that narrowing. And the distal flow, if you see, very small peaks are there. It's monophasic flow, and there is rounding and increased acceleration time. So this is an example of a poor collateral. Once again, we will see this example. especially in carotids, there is no scope of collaterals in case of IC occlusions, and you see this stump-like flow. So before we complete today this PPT, we will just revise. So this is, see this flow, and we will see what it is. This is a monophasic flow. These are also examples of monophasic flow. And the monophasic flow in the first slide had normal PSV and normal AT, and the monophasic flow in the next slide, both images, they suggest the severe proximal disease. There is loss of reversal, the reduced PSV, and increased acceleration time. Again, this is a peripheral artery showing biphasic flow. So this biphasic flow is due to narrowing, proximal narrowing. Okay, the PSV is reduced, there is little bit spectral broadening. This is a subclavian artery. Subclavian artery is not expected to show this type of flow. See that the acceleration time is quite maintained, but the diastolic reversal has gone. There is continuous forward flow, monophasic flow, and this is due to this proximal stenosis. The proximal stenosis is quite severe. It is not getting into the spectral window, and there is the distal dampened flow or a reduced peak systolic velocity flow. This is an example where you can see this is subclavian artery. The flow pattern is very typical. You can see the feathery appearance of the spectrum. This is a, what is this? This is a turbulent flow. This turbulence is because of severe proximal stenosis, and that turbulence, the RBCs, they are moving, gushing through that very small area, and then they are producing turbulence distally. This is seen up to certain distance distal to the stenosis, and these are seen in major vessels usually. This is example we have seen before also. Carotid artery and a stenosis distal to that. If you see this flow distal to the stenosis, see a very low amplitude flow, continuous forward flow. This is a superior mesenteric artery. Do you see this is as a normal flow? We are seeing so very small stumps. And what is there? The proximal superior mesenteric artery has got severe stenosis. Velocity is more than 300 centimeter per second. That is causing the distal dampened flow. Patient. So Doppler is very much useful in prediction of proximal and distal disease. So always ask questions whenever you see abnormal flow. Am I correct? Am I correct in identifying the vessel? Am I correct in seeing the direction of flow? And is it correct for that vessel? And if the spectral pattern, is it correct? And is my angle correct before measuring the velocity? And always remember, setting is everything in color Doppler. So if you find narrowing or stenosis in a peripheral artery, you can draw a diagram along with your report and mention exact site of narrowing or occlusion, or you can mention collaterals, they are reforming the distal vessel. It is always useful for the surgeon or the intervention radiologist to decide how the things can be taken up. There was one question about primary and secondary Renault phenomena. The Renault phenomena produces three types of vascular pathologies in the upper limb. There is narrowing or chronic occlusion of digital arteries, or there is narrowing or occlusion of digital proper arteries, and sometimes there are acute occlusions. The type 1 is common in secondary Renaults, and type 3 is common in again common in this due to antiphospholipid antibodies or TAO or vibration trauma or vasculitis. Ulnar is more commonly affected, and the second to fifth proper palmar digital artery is commonly affected. And if you want to differentiate between primary and secondary Reynolds phenomena. This is a chart type representation. The diameter, the resistivity index, the flow volume is measured in ulnar artery, radial artery and digital artery, and then cold provocation test is done, and after that the flow starting time and flow normalizing time, it is increased in secondary Reynolds, and it is less or normal in primary Reynolds phenomena. So thank you, and we will now see few cases of stenosis. Thank you. Get a mic. History बताओ. इनको mic